Hello and welcome everyone. In today's video, we're going to be talking about why it is that the fearful avoidant tends to push people away and kind of flee out of relationships when they are feeling unsafe. So this really comes from a couple key factors. And number one is going to be the core wound that says, I am or will be betrayed. Now, for a fearful avoidant, pretty much they all have a problem with trusting people, with really opening up their hearts into relationships, and they always have this background sense that something bad is going to happen or that their partner is not really going to show up for them in the way that they need. And so they have a very hard time trusting people. Why? Where does this come from? Well, it usually stems from early in childhood, right? Where it's like maybe you had caregivers who were very inconsistent, or maybe they promised you things and they didn't follow up with that. That's a lack of incongruency. Maybe some days your parent was really nice to you and other days they were not so nice to you, and maybe they were kind of mean, and so that really felt like a betrayal. And how we develop these things is by being exposed to experiences repetitively that elicit some kind of negative emotion, right? Repetition plus emotion is really what programs things into our subconscious mind. Now, if you didn't know about the subconscious mind, our subconscious mind is responsible for 95 to 97% of all of our actions, emotions, and decisions. And really, it's where all of our habitual part exists. So whatever we are experiencing and it becomes like habitual, it's the way we learn that the world is supposed to be. We kind of have these things running on autopilot. It's just how we normally handle situations from one day to the next. And so if we have negative experiences, right, then we have negative programming a lot of the time. So what happens is when we have this background fear of being betrayed, or like we can't trust, for the fearful avoidant, let's say they are in a relationship, right, and they feel like their partner isn't being honest with them about something. And this could be simply because their partner is running late from work, right? And maybe the fearful avoidant jumps into this negative conclusion like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? Are they with somebody else? This is really a change in behavior. Fearful avoidants have a very hard time with pattern changes in the relationship. They really value consistency. And whenever there is a change in the pattern, fearful avoidants can tend to jump to that core wound. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be betrayed. And so this can also happen like if there is a lack of congruency. What you say and what you do not align. So let's say that the fearful avoidance partner says, hey, let's hang out this weekend, and then they kind of switch up plans on them last minute. Fearful avoidants have a tendency to jump into these negative conclusions again because they have this core wound that says, I am or will be betrayed. They might think something is going on. Who else are they investing in? And it kind of just follows these patterns. So how does this affect a fearful avoidant really trying to flee or leave relationships? This has a tremendous, I would almost say one of the biggest impacts, because when fearful avoidants think they are being betrayed or think that is a possibility, this is touching on one of their biggest core wounds. It can often feel like a 10 out of 10 trigger, like they feel tremendously unsafe. You might even notice like your nervous system kind of being all in this fight, flight, freeze response. Like you don't even know what to do. You probably don't even know what to do with your own emotions or how to regulate or self-soothe yourself, because this core wound is so activated and it is your biggest core wound. It really affects how you operate in relationships and how you feel. So when you are feeling this kind of trigger based on your perception of anything that's going on, the change in pattern, the lack of incongruency, right? Whenever this is going on, fearful avoidants can tend to go in this self-protection mode. It causes them to want to shut down and kind of push somebody very far away. And this is, again, a form of self-protection, because it's like, if I'm perceiving that this could be a threat, I'm going to flee the scene so that I don't have to deal with the pain that could come from the potential of being betrayed. And a lot of the times, this isn't actually what is going on, right? It's not that your partner is actually out cheating on you or doing different things. Like sometimes things come up, sometimes we have inconsistencies, incongruencies, pattern changes in the relationship. And so you have to be able to kind of get a hold on this behavior, because when fearful avoidants feel unsafe, right, they can flee the scene. They start telling themselves all these things in their mind about why this relationship isn't working out. I shouldn't trust them anyways. This is already going on. There's a pattern change. These are red flags in the fearful avoidance mind. And they kind of want to just run far away. They start flaw finding as a form of self-protection to kind of justify the reasons for them wanting to leave the relationship. And this isn't a healthy coping mechanism long term. You're trying to protect yourself from something in extreme. So it's like if there's a pattern change, right, and it feels really sensitive or really tough, like you can take power, like you can take control of that situation by going to your partner and just asking them what's going on, right? And remember to do it in a positive and healthy way, of course. But it's like you have that power to just go ahead and get that clarity. And a lot of times, like fearful avoidants struggle with vulnerability. It's like, why should I have to ask? Why do I need to go ask them for these things or talk about these things? Because fearful avoidants think that vulnerability is weak a lot of the time, because it's like really opening up their hearts. And again, they feel like if I open up my heart and I pour into the person and I show them that I care, what if they take advantage of me? And then what if I'm left alone at the end, or they do end up betraying me? And I go through all of these things, I open up to them, I give them the benefit of the doubt, and then they end up betraying me. That will hurt even worse. So therefore, I'm not going to do it at all, right? So that's number one of the biggest ways that fearful avoidants tend to sabotage relationships and kind of want to flee the scene. The second one that I'm going to share today is fearful avoidants struggling with feeling unworthy at their core. So fearful avoidants, they have an unworthy core wound. It says, I am unworthy, undeserving of love. Now, this shows up in relationships when maybe they get with a partner and their partner is really nice to them and, they're showing them a lot of love. And because this isn't familiar to the fearful avoidant, because in early childhood, you didn't get all that love, consistency, and when you didn't, you made it mean I am unworthy of these things. Well, now if you get into a healthy relationship and somebody is really pouring in and really showing up for you, your brain goes, wait a minute, this isn't familiar. We don't deserve that. And it tries to sabotage and push people away. And this could be by picking fights or nitpicking your partner, or just like going out to do things that are reckless to kind of sabotage your connection on purpose. Because when somebody is showing you different ways of a relationship, right, and it's not something that is familiar, when it's not familiar, our brain does this thing where it equates familiarity with safety. So because being treated right, being treated well with consistency, congruency, all these kind acts of service, right? Because that's not familiar, our brain equates familiarity with safety. And so what it does is it goes, this isn't familiar, this is unsafe, push it away, because it thinks that this thing that is unfamiliar is going to hurt us and cause us pain. It's almost like too good to be true, right? And you don't want to be in these dynamics where you are pushing your partner away when they actually are doing good things for you. So it's very important to become aware, if you are a fearful avoidant, that, hey, I have a betrayal core wound, or I have an unworthy core wound, and there are many more that the fearful avoidant has, and these things get projected out into their relationship. But these are the main two things that I see showing up for fearful avoidance when they are in relationships, and it causes them to feel unsafe and want to push their partner very far away or kind of just flee the scene, right? So what can we actually do to heal? If you are a fearful avoidant and you notice that you are struggling with these types of things, well, there's something you can do to help rewire your subconscious mind. So I want you to think of, 10 to 15 pieces of proof of where you actually have loyalty in your life. And I want you to do this every single day for 21 days. Write out a list. It could be, I have loyalty at work. My boss gives me a job. I have loyalty with my grandmother. She is there for me whenever I call her. I have loyalty with my pets. Whatever that looks like, make that list of 15 pieces of evidence and then reread this list for 21 days every single day in that first hour that you wake up. And what this is actually doing is it's rewiring your brain, to see where you do have loyalty, where it is okay to trust, because right now it's solely focused on the threat and it's saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to be betrayed. And by doing this, you're rewiring your brain, and you're creating new neural pathways so that these things don't keep showing up. Now, the next part of this is going to be asking for your needs, right? So if you're a fearful avoidant, you have this fear of betrayal, and you really need things to be consistent. You need consideration, you need congruency. I call these the 3 C's of trust. This is something that's going to be huge that you're able to ask your partner for. So it can be like, hey, I value consistency, when let's make a routine to text or call every day, while we're at work, and then maybe have an evening routine to sit down and talk. I really value consistency. So it's if I don't hear from you one morning, and this was what has originally been going on, it kind of really lands poorly for me and it kind of stings. And so I would really appreciate if we could work on, making this the new norm. And of course, let them know I'm not expecting perfection. This is something that we are working on, but it is a pattern that I'd really love to work on. And again, the same thing for congruency. What people say and what they do should really align. You can ask them for those things or just let them know hey, it stings when something doesn't align with what you originally said. And then, if something does change, again, no problem, but just let me know the why behind it. Getting a little bit of context really makes a difference, because of course things will change. You can't control life, right? But being able to advocate hey, just understanding why, being very transparent and open for each other, with each other, goes a very long way for the fearful avoidant, feeling safe in the relationship, especially during the process of working through that core wound of I am or will be betrayed. Now, let's jump into the unworthiness core wound that fearful avoidants have. So because fearful avoidants tend to feel unworthy, right, at their core, and they want to kind of reject people showing up for them, and it feels unsafe because it's unfamiliar, well, it's important that you also do the subconscious mind reprogramming work. Now, for 21 days, you're going to do the same thing with the betrayal core wound. You find 15 pieces of proof of the opposite of where you are worthy. And I don't want you to say, I am worthy because I do this, I do this, I do this, because your worth is not connected to what you do, right? It's who you are at your core. So instead, I want you to find 15 traits or qualities about yourself that you think are worthy of love. Maybe it's, I am a kind person. I'm very intelligent because I graduated school, or whatever that looks like, right? Traits, qualities. I have long hair. I think that my eyes are really nice. Traits, qualities, characteristics. This is based on who you are as a person, not what you do. So that's one thing that I want to make very clear. The second part of this is going to be exposure work. So when you are in the midst of, somebody being nice to you and maybe taking you out, and you notice you have this background sense of discomfort, or it's why are they doing this? Questioning their intentions. This really is a signal that you have an unworthiness core wound. And what you can do is, in the moment when you are noticing this, just try to settle into the feeling and cancel that thought and say, you know what? I am worthy of this. I do deserve this. It is okay to receive this. And anytime somebody's showing up for you and you notice that feeling, do this over and over and over again, because it's really important that you are exposing yourself and you are consciously becoming aware of what is going on and replacing these thoughts. And so what happens is over time, it becomes familiar. And remember, our brain equates familiarity with safety, and you will begin feeling safer in your relationship and receiving. You'll start feeling more worthy over time, and it will make such a tremendous difference in how you feel. And you won't be operating out of these fears that are causing you to want to push people away and kind of flee the scene. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching this video. I help women change their mindset to change their love story after trauma. I'm a fearful avoidant specialist. I was a fearful avoidant myself, and I know the journey. So if you are a fearful avoidant or a loved one and you like to hear fearful avoidant content, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.